the first, that comment at the end that said, public-private partnership between businesses. And the reason being is, I'm a young person here, probably I might be the youngest person in the room, I'm 28 years old, and our country is being handed to us young people, right? That's Jamaica and all the Caribbean islands. And we're suffering from the decisions that were made in the past. Because, as you said, there are other countries that were small and did other things and have different results. You can say South Korea, Singapore, Israel, all those places. And for me, because I've started to read these stories, and I've read Lee Kuan Yew's book, I've read about the Korean story, how they invested and how they work with businesses. I have a couple questions to you. One, in response to the Indian thing, yes, actually no, there's so many more opportunities. The Colombian ambassador said there's scholarships there as well, the ones that have applied. So again, there's stuff like that. There's always opportunities for Jamaicans to take, but we're not taking them. The US Constitution, when it was written in 1740, whatever time, had a line that says to promote the progress of science and useful arts, they're going to be able to secure limited times to author and inventors the exclusive rights. So that's copyright. So they wrote it there. Again, in 1786, I think Alexander Hamilton wrote an infant industry argument about how you have to protect infant industries and how you have protections about those. He copied the Prime Minister of England who did it. I think it was Walpole in England beforehand. We're here today in 1970 where we just decimated most of our businesses, our business community. 1990, well, FinSac decimated most of the business community. Now we're here in 2020, and the stock market isn't doing as well, the business community is also doing again. I look at that stat, I'm here, I'm young. Productivity is not going up, so I have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. When you say to train STEM, the only problem I have with that, and Nigel Clark had a really good argument, he says a private benefit for the university graduates because most of them migrate. There's an argument that I saw, and I didn't understand from Stanford, where they talked about why LinkedIn got great. They said you need to have barrels to shoot the ammunition. I said, what does that mean? You need people who are managers, who can lead and organize people. We have tons of ammunition in Jamaica, bright minds, that they have no one to direct them with. No business community, no one around, and they don't achieve anything based off that. Adam Stewart can make a lot of money because that ammunition that's ready and the level managers, he can create hotels. You can use that level of labor for that. You can also create lots of call centers. But the businesses that are really going to grow, which is manufacturing and all these services and all that stuff of that nature, we don't have the capacity. So my question to you is, what would you recommend to the government now that they can do? Because I've asked them, sometimes they say, oh, we can't change policies too hard. They can't do these type of things, which gets me super stressed. Where they can say, okay, we have some businesses that are working. How do we create more business community? Is it that we start at high school, we tell business stories? Is it that we actively invest and do all those partnerships that you say? We follow Singaporean model, Israeli model, whatever the model is. And then how can we admit, because I think this is where the socialism thing comes in. Although we focus on the brightest students, which is sad and true, we also don't give them enough resources for them to succeed. In the business community, the businesses are doing very, very well. We're not also encouraging them to do other things, which is what Korea did. They went to the big business, high on there, all those guys and said, listen, you're doing this, we need to do something even bigger than that, and put up money for it. How can we change that approach so we can work with those who do well? So the Usain Bolt, who has won 8 medals, let's make sure he does that. And then at the same time, create a business community that works. And what is the approach that can make the government understand? Because the sad part is, although I'm in this room, the private sector people are rich, they don't really care that much because they're already rich. If I was rich too, I'd probably just be talking to you and write you a check, I'm serious. I'd be like, oh, whatever. But because I'm not that rich, this medium community and the small community needs to go. No, I'm pretty rich. And that's because I'm from a business family. So I get to grow because my family is teaching me all these things. And that's the next thing which I'm trying to tell you. The only reason why I'm successful is because my family was already successful. And that should not be the case. It should not be the case that I have to come from a family that's successful that can teach me. So I reach a stage ahead of most of my peers because of my family. And if the government said, okay, business is a real thing, instead of my family being my banker, then trust me, we have way more people. So I know it's a lot, but I've been reading, I get really angry about it, and I just wish somebody would come and say, okay, you know what? There are some programs that work, like DBJ, there are some things that work. How do we get more of those, and how do we have differential laws? So I think my argument would be differential laws for small businesses and medium businesses, like you refer for the procurement process, that is with taxes, unemployment, like how they deal with employment, an encouragement system in high school and university, and then let's focus on educating people with our businesses to receive them. Because if we train all these STEM people, I promise you they'll be at NVIDIA and Facebook and we'll be no better off. Because the brightest of Jamaica, if they get the best grades at you or wherever or Campion, they're going to America the next day building. I think it was someone told me this. Ziento said, being a good colony, helping the people over there instead of building ourselves again. So we're following that same path, sending the best and brightest to another country while not building our country.
Let me say, there are a couple of things which, there are a couple of things going for Jamaica. I thought it was remarkable that both political parties decided on a 2030 vision. I don't know if you know behind Jamaica's history, that's a remarkable thing. And there's a convergence in terms of policy direction with respect to the two political parties. This is a good thing. I'm not saying they're similar, but there's a convergence in terms of what is to be done. But that's a good thing too. You have despite the education system, you have a lot of social capital. You have a very vibrant culture. The creative industries could be expanded. I made the point earlier, and I make it again, that the domestic capital making sector is crucial, and part of that is health. We have the great privilege, and I know the US has not always been a friend, but you know what, we sit close to the largest economy in the world. If we can't do well, we're not isolated. We're close to the largest economy in the largest, for a time, I think the Chinese, depending on how you come to GDP, they may have overtaken them. But that to me is something which we have to see as a credit. Large amounts of purchasing power, and you're close to the US. So I'm saying you want to pursue those activities for which there is tremendous need, and health services, dental services, and certain kinds of surgery. Why are they going to India? Which is much further away. So I'm saying you start with the low-hanging fruit. That's the first thing. And you want to open, as I said, a space for business so that young people, as yourself, must have the opportunity with a proper supervision to be able to pursue an activity. One of the tragedies in this part of the world is when you fail in business, nobody wants to talk to you. If you know the story of Silicon Valley and those places, if you fail 3 times, they want to talk to you. So there are challenges in small spaces, but there are also advantages. Jamaica is a household name, and whatever the crime situation, people come in large numbers. It's amazing. So I'm saying that I see policy continuity, which to me is a good thing, because you've had a history of discontinuity in policy. And by the way, development is a painful and long-term process. You can't get frustrated too soon.
It's been 50 years, though.
Yes, it's a short time.
No, but Douglas O'Reilly, who is my good friend, he wrote in his book about Grace Kennedy in 1990. We are going to grow faster than Jamaica, so we will have to export and go to a market that's different. He wrote a Vision 2020. A Vision 2020 of Grace Kennedy was achieved. They actually reached 60% of exports from outside. Jamaica has had all these visions. I can't say we've achieved the visions. So it's like still, I heard all of that, but I just want like somebody to finally come up and say, these are the practical things. Although I see the government doing some things now, but to actually get us to move, because at the end of the day, when we're all here again, I don't want us to be 50 years from now, when I'm old, I'm sitting and saying, boy guys, Jamaica has the best social capital, yeah, we're the best brand Jamaica, poor people are still poor, the business is not going good, and a lot of people are migrating. And then we'll say, oh yes, I know Dominican Republic is now in space and they're doing fantastic because they changed their laws, but we still are in the same exact position. And that's what I'm trying to ask, like how can we actually make changes? Like what are the first steps to do that we could do, that we could be in a better place?
As I say, we begin with the low-hanging fruit. You can't make aircrafts at this point in time. You have to start with those things that you do well. As I say, we are not price makers, so we have to work on the basis of international crisis means our quality has to improve. And we have to improve the education system, notwithstanding large numbers of leaving. In other words, that 50% of the labor force means that you have a Grace Kennedy that is doing well, productivity high, and a vast array of firms, low wage, low, you're not going to solve the poverty issue if large numbers of people are located in low wage, low productivity activity. It's not going to happen. You know? But I think that we have to be patient, meaning that we have to work on this. The Singapores and so on, when Singapore was being taken out of the Union, people said that they were going to be a basket case. So you've had countries, have had examples of countries that people thought were going nowhere. You know? And you're too young to be disillusioned. You have to wait for me. You have to wait for my age.
See, remember Lee Kuan Yew saw his own vision. He wrote, and he laughed at us. When I read his book, every line that he wrote was a joke to us, specifically the black countries. He said they were focused on all these other things, all this, oh yes, they're going to steal from us. He's like, boy, we don't have nothing to steal from. He invited the people to come, and at the end of the day, guess what? He said before he retired, my country's GDP per capita was almost the size of Britain, right? So that's the reality of his country. And he visited us, and he called us to loon. He literally said, this Michael Mann, the guy, boy, he's kind of done quixotic. That was the exact word. Talking about socialism and all these other things and how the world is this balance of order. And he focused on business, the brass tacks. And right now Singapore has 90% happiness with home. Everyone, most people own their own home, live in their own home. And I'm just wondering still, like,
Be careful then. Who want to live on the sea.
Of course. Some compromise. Some compromise.
There's Dominican Republic, there's South Korea, there's Japan, there's other countries that are doing well.
Riveting conversation, but we have one more person that we promised to move along to ask a question online. And